Welcome to a special episode of the Military Transition Academy podcast. And I am one of your hosts, Misty Marino. And today we are going to hear from a Vets2PM alum. So Jimmy, so glad to have you here. You just completed your PMP Bootcamp Plus course and you just passed your PMP. So introduce yourself and let us know how you found Vets2PM.
Thanks, Misty. As you said, my name's Jimmy. I was going through, I just found out I was getting medically boarded, found out I was getting medically retired, and I had very minimal time to kind of pivot and prepare for my transition out of the military. Unlike a lot of people, typically you get that 18-month time frame to start your SFL TAP, start doing a lot of preparations. And then as you had spoken even earlier in some of your previous podcasts, as well as in the course itself, that, for you, like you started years prior doing a lot of the networking. You knew what you were wanting to do. You knew at least kind of the steps that you needed to take. And so for me, that's all been kind of compressed into like this 4-month time frame. So I looked on Army Ignited. I looked to see how much money I had available. And I was like, I'm going to take advantage of every dime that I can. And one of the things that I had heard of through a couple of mutual friends of mine who had gotten out of the military years prior was project management. And so, and while I was going through my MPH program with George Washington, one of my classmates was Jonathan Liu, who just recently retired from the Army as a master sergeant from Special Forces. And he had told me about PMP a long time ago. So I was like, maybe I need to give this another look. And so, for me, it took me a while to find Vets2PM. I think, Army Ignited has definitely made a lot of improvements over the years, but it's also, there's still a little bit of that learning curve in terms of searching different vendors out. But, as I looked through, Vets2PM had everything that I could have asked for. It had the course itself. It also provided for a test simulator and then the test itself. So it kind of had the full package that I was looking for. And then, as I did a Google search and I went to your guys' website, it looked very user-friendly. You guys literally laid out step-by-step what I needed to do. And with everything else going on, I was happy to have somebody just tell me, hey, do X, Y, Z, and you'll be covered. So yeah, that's kind of how I came to find you guys.
Yeah, so Vets2PM word of mouth is really good for us. It's strong. We have a lot of alumni that have been through our program, but we always like to say our program, it's not just a program, it's a system. It's a complete military transition or career transition system. And right from the beginning, we're outlining what you should do, when you should do it, how you should do it. Go through the class. This is what you should study. Here's your 30-day study plan. And then, then you pass the PMP. So talk a little bit about your class experience.
Yeah, so that was over the course of 2 weekends. They were long days. I remember having to stand up a couple times, grab another cup of coffee. But it was a lot of information all at once. And I remember initially thinking, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to remember all this? But one of the things that you guys continue to reemphasize was the approach that we need to be taking. That we're a veteran project manager from, working on a multi-million-dollar project over the course of several years. Like, you continue to reemphasize this, and I was like, maybe this is something I need to pay attention to.
So for the people that are listening, one thing that I always say is you're an experienced project manager, and experienced project managers manage projects differently. So you're in this class to learn the standardized way of managing projects that is globally recognized. So that way you can go and manage projects, even like if you have the project management title or just as a professional, you can manage projects in a way that everyone's going to understand. And then the third thing I tell people is that this is your first pass. You are not expected to take the exam at the end of this course. You are expected to go and utilize your 30-day study plan. And then you'll be able to know the information, comprehend it, and then be able to apply it. So the course satisfies the first level of learning, which is knowledge. The 30-day study plan satisfies the second level of learning, which is comprehension. And then the test itself is the third level, and that's the application. So yeah, I probably reiterated it a lot. But we also provide you the PM mindset that PMI, Project Management Institute, the credentialing authority, expects you to utilize when you're taking the exam. And that's large complex project, multi-million dollar budget, and multiple global stakeholders, multiple year schedule, so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. And and to your point about the three step, the three reiterations of material. So after the course was over, and it was really great because it was fun being able to hear from other students, especially those who are already working in industry. And I actually ended up making friends with one of them in particular. We actually used we would text each other now and then just to be like, hey, how you doing? Are kind of keeping each other accountable. We told each other when we were going to be taking the exam. We were going to try and take it at the same time, but we weren't taking it in the same place. But I ended up taking it 2 days prior, and I told him, hey, I'll let you know how it goes. Thankfully, I had good news for him. But yeah, no. And then after the class was over, it was nice because then you guys provided a slew of resources afterwards. So like you had the 30-day study plan, which I went through with a fine tooth comb. There's additional material that you can go through that's not necessarily mandatory for the course. And I utilized that as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I had as much familiarization with the material. And that really seemed to be the game changer when it came to test day. So,
yeah. And, there's different levels of project management experience, entry, mid, senior. And so people that are coming into the course, the best thing about Vets2PM is that the instructors not only are most veterans, so we're able to bridge that gap between the military and the civilian sector, but all of them are experienced instructors and experienced project managers. So in the first part of the class, we'll ask people's experience, that way we can guide the class appropriately. And so, even if there's someone listening right now and you're like, I'm not quite sure if I have, am I actually an experienced project manager? Come to the course and let us show you that either you are, or maybe the CAPM, which is the, entry mid-level project management certification, maybe that's a better fit for you. And this course will still satisfy the 23-hour requirement for the CAPM. And then we also have a separate 30-day study plan for the CAPM, and the exam content outline is very similar to the PMP. So honestly, you get two courses in one, but most are qualified to take the PMP. So good weekend class. I will tell you, anyone that is looking for, a class where it doesn't really impact like PTO or where you have to take your leave or anything like that, we hold 4 weekend classes a year. So one will be every quarter. Our first one is in January. And the weekend classes are fun because those are where all the ones that are out actually in the civilian sector, they come to our class. So why don't you share your experience a little bit about, the people that you met in the class?
Yeah, so I mean, we had a mix of some active duty who looked like they were getting ready to get out. I think we had like a lieutenant colonel in the class, and then we also had people who have been out of the military for several years.
Yeah.
We had people who were working more on a construction project management basis. We had people working in IT project management.
Yep.
So you had a little bit of like, just a little hodgepodge of everything. And it was a great experience to kind of just hear from them because, as we would go through the course, you'd give us an opportunity like, hey, like get some participation, get some involvement. What do you think what do you think about this? What's your experience? And it was just really fun to kind of like, hear from some of the individuals, and, you don't usually hear a lot of from the same people just because they have the most experience.
Yeah.
But what I thought was neat was even for the people who didn't speak a whole lot, the fact that they were there, I think that over time, they even started to realize, like myself, that like you actually do have what it takes and you do have the experience once you've taken the time to sit down and actually think about it. So like for any, so, I mean, I tell this to anybody is if you have any doubt in your mind, or if you're questioning like, oh, like, I'm not a project manager, I don't have any experience, I've been in the military for 10 years. And like, that is project manager
Yeah.
experience. Like, you've learned how to manage people, you've learned how to take on a project, you've learned how to hopefully learn how to, do the budgeting and, the scheduling, and you're conferring with we don't call them stakeholders, you call them leadership, and you call them,
Yep.
higher ups, you call them all the vendors that you're working with. So you are taking, it has different names,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, and this was what was really great too, is that I use the Excel template that you guys have to kind of help build my application.
Yeah.
And I even texted you after I got approved. I mean, I didn't have a single audit. Everything was good. And I'm like, I can't believe that this actually, like, I mean, it surprised me because I'm realizing that everything that I have done more than qualifies me to go out into the real world and actually do this like professionally. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the common misconception, because you'll hear it on LinkedIn all the time and see it on LinkedIn, is like, oh, not every person is a project manager. Maybe you don't have the title, but every professional, at least mid-level and, senior level professionals are going to manage some sort of project. So if you think of what the definition of a project is, it's a temporary endeavor that's creating a unique good service value product result, whatever. It has a start and an end date, right? And you're most likely going to have a scope, schedule, and budget in some way, shape, or form. So if you think about that definition of a project, every one of us manages projects in either, in a small sort of capacity or a large capacity. So that's why I tell veterans all the time, like when you're out there looking for project management jobs, remember that a human resources business partner is a project manager, operations manager sometimes is a project manager. So there's different titles out there that will allow you to utilize your project management skill set. So I'm glad that you recognize that, and that, you shared your story about applying using our spreadsheet. So honestly, when someone comes to Vets2PM, we're going to be with you from the beginning to the end. So we're going to help you identify your transferable skill set via our application tool that we have for the project management professional certification. Then we're going to help you validate that skill set with the certification. So we're going to put you in a course. We're going to get you ready, give you a 30-day study plan. And then let's talk about the other services. So some things that kind of set us apart: you have lifetime access to our curriculum. So if you ever wanted to come back in, Jimmy, and get a refresh or whatever, you can, attend a course and you have lifetime access. You have all of the access to the project management documents, those templates that you have in your student portal. And then you also have a resume training and template, so a 2-page professional resume. So we help you identify your skill set, validate it with a certification, show and tell with the resume, and you have the option to utilize the interview workshops. So I noticed that you haven't activated it yet, but you still have, that option. And then we have a LinkedIn optimization course. So identify, validate, show and tell. And then we can plug you in. So we can plug you in. It doesn't always apply to you because you are going through a discharge, but we have medical discharge. We have skill bridge programs. And then we also have our job board where we're working with 70 plus companies in order to employ veterans. So we're not just a course, we're a complete system. So have you used any of the other resources, or are you getting ready?
So I've been getting ready, and I think one of the things that I've tried to do is I've tried to dive headfirst into the slew of different services that are out there.
Yeah.
A lot of it came from just SFL TAP. So I know Recruit Military. I've been to a few of their resume writing courses. I plan on utilizing yours as well, just because I'm curious about similarities and differences.
Yeah.
I'm always an advocate for, more is more in terms
Mhm.
of like preparation. So I just want to always make sure that I have that. And yeah, I appreciate you calling me out on that. I definitely need to make sure that I activate that one portion there.
No, I
You know,
think
and
I do believe that we are in the veterans are supported era. And I agree more is more. I don't necessarily know if more is better for everyone. So the best thing about Vets2PM is that if you are quick to get overwhelmed and maybe stressed out, we are your one-stop shop. So we literally can be your one-stop shop for the military transition assistance. As such as, getting you logistically ready. Now, mentally, we can't help you with the mental transformation, right? That's other resources will help you do that. But the logistics, the resume, the interview, LinkedIn, we have tons and tons of positions on our job board that are just waiting for veterans to apply. In fact, our partners are like, hey, bring them to us. So, we do have a job board. So when you're getting ready to look for other positions, I know that you're in the middle of that right now. That's an option as well. And that's free to you because you're a student. That's free to you. So any last words about Vets2PM or anything you want the audience to know?
yeah, no, I think that Vets2PM is definitely the reason why I was able to accomplish my goal. Getting my PMP from the very beginning, I remember thinking about it, not so much as like, oh, like, yeah, it's a great extra credential to have. But then as I got further into it, I'm realizing, wow, like there's a reason why not everybody has this.
Yeah.
It is not, it is by far one
It's
of the
not
most
easy.
challenging tests I've ever taken. I definitely could have done with some like, sugar or something like that to like sustain me in between sections. So I recommend that to anybody who's about to take the test, like bring some simple sugar to kind of kickstart the brain again.
That's actually a good something good to touch on is, and we tell you this in class, but the biggest, when people ask us like, oh, what's your biggest tip for passing the PMP? And besides knowing the information, because obviously you can't replace that, it's learning to sit for 230 minutes and answer 180 questions. And I'm not just talking about questions like, what is blah, 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 like questions that have 6 paragraphs, right? Where you like, so you're reading, you're sitting, and you don't have, the ability to truly stand up and be active in whatever it may be, because it is a testing facility. So that's the secret sauce, is doing those 1,000 prep questions that our 30-day study plan, calls for you to do, is because you need to, it's kind of like running a marathon. You should have your longest run of the week on the same day, same conditions of what your marathon is going to be like. I remember someone said, yeah, I'm running a December marathon, but they trained all summer. It's like, that's not the same condition. So it's the same thing for the exam. Anything on that?
Oh yeah, no. And like I said, I followed the 30-day study plan. I mean, I had to adjust a little bit every now and
Yeah,
then just because of schedule.
because
But
we all have lives.
we all have lives, yeah, exactly. But I would make note of how I was progressing. And it seemed like the more that I got through the 30-day study plan, because when I tested, I would just test over everything. So obviously, there's some information that's fresh and there's some information that has yet to go back over again. And as I was doing that, I noticed I was like, okay, like I'm starting to get more confident. I'm feeling more confident.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was able to sit through that. I was able to do those things, but it was honestly more of just like a physiological, my brain literally was like, it was exhausted, just like you said. Just like if you're trying to run a marathon, you've only been training for 5Ks or, 10
Yeah,
minutes, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, why do my legs hurt? Well, because your legs aren't used to this. Uh,
exactly.
or you haven't experienced this before, so you don't know how to deal with it. And I think that anybody who's preparing to take this exam definitely deserves to give Vets2PM a look. And I definitely believe that you guys have brought the full package. And to your credit, like you said, you guys do have pretty much everything available. And I think that for somebody who is got that 12 to 18 months, it's a
Mhm.
great venue because, yeah, you've got your SFL tap and everything else, but you also can take your time through the process and you can you can, at your leisure, you can say, okay, I'm going to explore this now. I'm going to explore this now. And I'm going to start putting in resumes now. And I know you guys have a skill bridge. So like there's opportunity for skill bridge as well. And you can actually start getting this whole process rolling. It really is like a full, all in one package, inclusive package. So I think that anybody who's getting out, or considering getting out, owes it to themselves to check you guys out. So
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. I mean, we're small and mighty, but we can compete with the bigger companies out there, and you know which ones I'm talking about. So people tell me all the time, like, "Oh no, I'm going with, the big one, right? The H
yeah,
one."
yeah,
And that's cool. Like again, we're in the veterans are supported era, and I want you to go and get the help. But we are specialized. We really are able to give personal customer service, but cradle to grave. So we're going to help you identify your skill set. We'll help you validate it. We'll help you show and tell with the interview, the resume, LinkedIn. We'll connect you. So we have skill bridge opportunities. So we are a skill bridge host, and we have 70 plus companies that we work with. And then we also have a job board that has companies that are advertising for their direct hire positions. And oh yeah, when you get your certification, we also have a professional development unit university. So PDU University, so you can get your PDUs with us as well. So one-stop shop, the more the merrier. The resources out there are great, but if you're kind of like me and you get overwhelmed quickly, then you can just go right to Vets2PM. So I'm so glad it worked out for you, Jimmy, and I know you and I will be in touch. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I'm looking forward to hear about your what's next after the military. So appreciate you telling the audience about Vets2PM, and good luck to you.
thanks so much, Misty. Take care.